Well, during a recent visit to South Sudan, U.S. Senator Chris Coons observed the devastation caused by the country's ongoing civil war. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee member says the United States is uniquely positioned to use its leverage on South Sudan's leaders, while at the same time developing a more efficient and robust way to deliver aid. Now, viewers, Ayen Bior has more.
Millions of South Sudanese civilians have fled their homes, seeking safety from the civil war, while millions of others have departed their homestead in search of food and water, as famine grips two parts of the country. Aid agencies warn that famine could spread to other areas if immediate action is not taken. After visiting South Sudan's Unity State and Uganda's Bidi refugee camp with Republican Senator Bob Corker of Tennessee in April, Senator Coons told an audience at the U.S. Institute of Peace in Washington last week that U.S. diplomats and lawmakers must develop a comprehensive plan to urge South Sudan's leaders to end the conflict.
We have to find a way towards a meaningful peace process in South Sudan. President Salva Kiir can and should be a part of that process, but so far he has failed to show the leadership we would expect of a president. The United States, I believe, will step up and provide further pressure.
Senator Coons is a co-sponsor of the Food for Peace Reform Act, a bill that, if passed into law, would eliminate regulations that require food aid to be grown in the United States, then shipped overseas to places like South Sudan. Coons says that process normally takes weeks, if not months. By adding reforms to the current Food for Peace program, Coons says the U.S. could save about $500 million a year and reach up to 8 million more people far more quickly than under the current regulations. Coons also wants the U.S. State Department to appoint a special envoy for Sudan and South Sudan, a position that has been vacant since January. As the conflict has spread to previously peaceful regions in South Sudan, thousands of citizens continue to flee the country. South Sudanese citizen Char Paul, who now lives in the U.S., has grown weary of failed international efforts to stop the fighting in her country.
It is nice that they're helping out financially, giving aid, but just giving money, taxpayer money, it's not good enough. We need to get to the bottom of what's going on. We need to hold Salva Kiir accountable for all that are happening in South Sudan, because his family are not there, but other family, children and women are the ones that are suffering in the camp.
Brian Adeba, a South Sudan analyst with the Enough Project based in Washington, says groups like the African Union and the Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Commission, which is responsible for overseeing the peace agreement, need to step up.
I think it should. I think when you look at the regional organizations that are involved in this peace agreement and its collapse, they're missing in action. They're also bedeviled with fractions among themselves, and so U.S. leadership is essential. The U.S. has a lot of tools and leverage that it can utilize to bring the parties in the conflict to the negotiating table, and I think it's about time that that is used.
At least 79 aid workers have been killed in South Sudan since the conflict there erupted in late December 2013, including at least 12 this year alone, making South Sudan one of the most dangerous countries for aid workers.
The situation in South Sudan is that there are multiple actors in the South Sudan scene. There are several armed groups who are running about in the country, and it is very difficult to make accountability as to who killed the aid worker.
More than 3.5 million South Sudanese have been forced to flee their homes, including more than 2 million people who are internally displaced. The UN Refugee Agency has asked for $781 million to meet the growing needs of displaced populations in the region. So far, only 11% has been funded. Ayen Bior, VOA News, Washington.